Hi, it's Craig on my R2 building channel, and this video I am calling How Not to Build a Droid. When I built this blue and white R2 back 1999 to 2001, I made some very poor choices from from concept to build to details. It got so bad that 5 years ago I had to gut this droid and redo so much on it. And when I did that, I documented pictures, and we're going to see how I uh, just did a dismal failure on so many choices when I built this droid more than 20 years ago. So let's run through it. Here is the underside of the dome, and my choice for rotating the dome was a motor driving a gear on the center of the dome. This was horrible. What happened was the drive in the center was jolting the dome to a start. The dome would kind of overshoot the gear drive, and then the gear drive would re-engage. So this dome, when rotating it left and right, was very jerky. It was not a good fluid motorized mechanism. We found that the best way to drive a dome is to have some sort of rubberized wheel on the outer edge of the dome, so you have much more smooth and fluid functions. Driving the dome on a gear on the center was the absolute worst way to do it, and well, there it is. The the plywood top on the body was something that I did because I thought I needed a good stable base for the bearing, as well as the 3/8 rods that ran through the body so the middle foot could slide up and down. But it was absolutely horrible because this was the equivalent of having a car and welding the hood shut. You could not work on it. So this was absolute nightmare working on the droid. You can also see here that when I put the legs on, it is too wide of a gap between the body and the leg. And then the silver collars that we call the shoulder hubs never did get installed. So when I threw this thing together, I figured I would, get to that, and I never did. So that was absolute horrible, not only in aesthetic design, but service nightmare. So absolute failure. This is we didn't have a good selection for affordable speed controllers back in the day, so this was an RC receiver going to servos, and these servos direct linkaged to forward reverse switches. So we did not have any speed control on this droid. When you engaged a motor for the drive feet or for the dome, the motor was full speed forward or full speed backwards. We did not have proportional control over, from the joystick to the motors. So that right there was very poor. I am so glad that now we have affordable speed controller boards online to make the droid more fluidic in its motorized movements. So when I took the plywood off the top of the body, I was absolutely flabbergasted at the size of the motor that I used to drive the dome. What was I thinking? I mean, this must be a windshield wiper motor out of a Cadillac or a Lincoln. That thing is huge. I was blown away. And then uh, here's all the wiring in here attached to a terminal block, zip tied to this steel pipe. And then I got wiring running down the steel pipe, down the legs into the battery boxes and the feet. There were no fuses in this droid. I cannot believe I built this robotics project without a single fuse. In fact, one time the stereo headphone jack, which was how I put slip ring power from the body up into the dome, the nut had come loose, and it fell inside onto this pipe just like you see here, and wires started smoking and burning. That's why you see these crimp connectors on there, because I had to redo some wiring because I had smoke pouring out of this thing. You have to use fuses. Absolute failure on my part. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, here we go. This was, I can't even believe, I know, I should have known that toys are not screen accurate. Toys are the worst when it comes to screen accuracy. So here I was, uh, falling back on the 6-inch Astromech toy as a reference as opposed to really studying still photographs. So this explains why my vents are very rectangular, because that's the way they were on this toy. My blue arms here were very straight, well, because that's the way they were on the toy. You never pattern a build off of a toy because a toy is not screen accurate. That was probably one of the worst mistakes I made in this build. So here's the foot drive, left and right feet. We had people debating what is better. Is it better to have rear wheel drive in the side feet? Is it better to have front wheel drive? And I thought to myself, I will outdo everybody. I'm going to do tank drive. So I had this a pair of these wiper motors, and these were direct shaft driven on this 6-inch V-belt pulley, and that turned this V-belt that went around these small idler pulleys. These idler pulleys had like bronze sleeve bearings in them, so they were just freewheeling on these axles. And it worked, however, it worked on hard, slippery floors. You could turn on hard, slippery floors, but if you tried to turn on concrete or on Berber carpeting like here, you'd go to do a turn and it would peel the V belt off of the pulleys. And oh, it gets better. If you were driving this on deep pile carpeting, the carpet fibers would get pinched between the V belt and the pulley, and as you're driving across the carpet, you were pulling strands of carpet right out. So, absolute worst way to motorize the feet. Okay, here's a video. This was one motor driving two functions. So one motor would lower the leg and angle the feet and the body and bring it back up. So I'm going to explain why this was horrible by pausing it here. When we get to the side view here, I'm going to pause it when it stops right there. The stance here is only a 3/4 stance. The legs only go back just so far, which means the body at the bottom swings forward just so far. A full stance is where the front of the side feet are in line with the back of the middle foot. This is only a 3/4 stance. If I had made the internal mechanisms where this did a full stance, where the leg angled back further and the body was further out this way, and we had a center of gravity that was much further forward, like you see on film, what would have happened upon retract was the one motor controlling these two functions would have had this middle leg going up into the body at the same time as the body and the side legs are drawing in. So this would have had the droid falling flat on its face, doing retract. So that was an absolute failure right there, was doing one motor to control two functions. It worked great in theory, but practical application on retract, it did not work. It was horrible, so my droid never really did do a full stance in three-legged mode. So everybody likes a story of failure, so this is my story. I thought I'd share it with you. This is how not to build a droid. I hope you got a kick out of it, and if you did, give me a like and even think about subscribing. Catch you later.